Welcome to another episode. On this episode of If They Can, You Can, we're going to be answering the question, do you really care about your dreams? I think that many people say they have dreams, they say that they care for their dreams, but they don't really. When it comes to achieving your goals, you have to go all in. So I'm going to be sharing the story of 4 individuals who have contributed significantly to our world. And the fact of the matter is, for all of us, we get to the dry point, and the encouragement from the stories of inspirational people is necessary. Now, for each story, I'll give a summary, but I'll then just highlight one critical point. And I will be using CARE as an acronym to help us go from where we are to where we want to get to. Now, there's a quote that I want you to be pondering on as we have this discussion today. It is, "What got you here won't get you there." It's by Marsha Goldsmith. The first thing is really being clear about where there is. What is your cause? What is your dream? What is it that is putting fire in your bones to keep on going? Interestingly enough, as a coach, many times I'm speaking to people, and when I ask the question, what do you want? The next thing I get in return is a blank face, right? Staring back at me because they've never really answered that question, or they may have answered it and they've lost sight of what they want or where they're trying to get to. And then the first part of that quote, what got you here? You've gotten to this point and some things need to change if you're going to get there. So let us look at the first person. She was almost killed for what she was trying to achieve. I'm talking of none other than Malala Yousafzai. Malala was a young girl growing up in Afghanistan where the Taliban did not want young girls to be educated. I mean, her father ran a chain of schools. He was a bit of an activist himself and was pushing for education for all. Malala got the bug from her dad, and by the time she was 11, she was already writing for BBC, the Urdu version, under a pseudonym to try and disguise herself. But, eventually the Taliban found out what she was doing, and she was writing about the challenges of being a young girl in a country where women were suppressed and they did not want them to be educated. And she wrote about those challenges and bringing international attention to these problems. On one fateful day, unfortunately, Malala, going to school on the bus, was gunned down by one of the Taliban terrorists. She was shot in the head. Now, I don't know about you, and I choose to believe that I'm a person that really wants to achieve his goals. But if my goals, what I believe and what I'm going for will get someone to shoot me in the head and I survive, I would likely think, let's let it go. There are many other things to pursue. Fortunately, international attention from all the media in the world was able to get her from her country to the United Kingdom. She went through reconstructive surgery. She went through surgery after surgery. Eventually, Malala was able to start living her life again. She went to University of Oxford to study PPE, and together with her father has founded the Malala Foundation, fighting for equal opportunities, education for all, particularly girls who are being prevented from being educated. Isn't that amazing? What is it about Malala that you want to draw out when we talk about, do you care for your dream? And the C is conviction. The difference between these people that we say, if they can, you can, is that they have a deep conviction for what they are trying to achieve. They have a deep conviction for the goal that they're trying to achieve. This conviction is also beyond themselves. Think of anybody great. The thing that drives them is not just to get a bigger house. It's not just to get more money so that they can enjoy life better. Quite frankly, the challenges we go through, those things are not enough to keep us going as human beings. So what are you convicted about? And where do convictions come from? That's a question we should explore. In Malala's case, you can already see that her father, so from the community that she was in, there was already the seeds of conviction for fighting for the greater good. So she was thoroughly inspired by her father, her family. The other way that you want to think about convictions is about digging deep. And there's an exercise, there's a root cause analysis exercise for finding the root cause of problems. And it's called the 5 whys. That when you state the problem, you begin to ask why and why and why and why until you get to the root cause. Usually they say that in 5 whys, you get to the root cause. You might need to go longer. How does this translate to you and I? I remember a man who said he wanted to exercise more, become fit. And when he was asked, why do you want to become fit? He said, well, it's a good thing to do. I get tired at work. I'm not performing as I should. So I really need to be more fit so I can perform better at work. And then the next question was why? And the why kept on being asked. And eventually the root that he got to, the conviction that he got to, was to be a good father, to provide for my family, and to be a good role model. How many know that to just be less tired at work versus to be a good father for my children and to be a good role model, that's a much stronger conviction than I just want to get more fit? So ask yourself the 5 whys, go up to 10 if you have to. And the truth is, doing this exercise, whatever your cause of action is right now, you get to the root, and if that is not firing you up enough, you might need to pause and say, is this it? If not, and if it isn't, then find what is. Because the likes of Malala and the other people I'm going to be speaking about, they have what we call conviction. And the people that you are competing with, let's say at work, for example, those who are convicted, right, and have a strong conviction, those are the guys who make all the difference. Those are the people who succeed. So the question is, which one are you? The chicken or the pig? Interesting question, right? They said, in a bacon and egg breakfast, what's the difference between the chicken and the pig? They say for the chicken, he was involved in the breakfast. Why? He laid a couple of eggs and is still there to lay more eggs. The pig, they say, was committed. I choose to say convicted, because he had to die for that bacon to be on your plate and mine, assuming you eat bacon. So, which one are you? The chicken or the pig? It's time to get some real conviction if you're going to be all that you can be. Let's look at the next person. The next person that we're talking about is a man who was not satisfied with the status quo. I guarantee you've used his products in your house or some public restroom that you've been to. He was already successful. And one day, using the vacuum cleaner in his house, he got frustrated because it just wouldn't work. He's changed the bag in the vacuum cleaner and it just wouldn't work effectively. And he's driving home and he sees a sawmill and he gets inspired, already being an engineer, of the cyclone effect on how the sawmill's strands are going in circular form. And he goes, I can do this in a vacuum cleaner. James Dyson is the person that I'm speaking about. And he goes and he begins to do prototypes. The first thing we learned from James Dyson and the likes of Malala, they're not satisfied with the status quo. Who are the people that get to the top in organizations, shift industries, create new unicorn products? These are people who see the status quo and they say it can be better. Better still, they ask the question, how can this be better? Now, you would think that James Dyson will go with this new idea, haven't done a prototype, everybody will be gung-ho, everybody will be excited and say, wow, this is going to be much better, let's make it happen. That's not what happened, unfortunately. The people who manufactured vacuum cleaners in the day thought to themselves, no, this is gonna eat into our market. We make a lot of money by manufacturing vacuum cleaning bags. And here you are saying you're going to create a product and there's going to be no need for bags. And they were like, hell no. Now, this is interesting for you and I, because you have this beautiful idea, a new way of doing something. You are upsetting the status quo and you're wondering why you are getting resistance. Resistance is part of the journey because people don't like to change, one, and people don't like you to upset the status quo. In James's case, he is unperturbed. He is determined. He is what? Convicted. He goes on to make over 5,000 prototypes, investing all his money. When he can't find a manufacturer, he goes to Japan, where he found one manufacturer that was willing to work with him. He then gets into a legal battle with a company in the UK who is using his patent illegally, and that is the next 5 years, and he can do no manufacturing and is having to work alongside to be able to provide for his family. It's a difficult time, but James continues. Eventually, he decides the only way I can do this is to do it myself, and he starts to manufacture himself with his company the vacuum cleaner, the Dyson 101. And this whole process takes years, from the point in time when he has the epiphany to the point in time when the first one is released is 15 years. Are you hearing this? So you want to be like somebody so great. How long are you willing to wait? Now, how does James demonstrate care? Yes, we can see his convictions. And why do we see his convictions? How much time he is willing to wait is number one. But beyond that, we also see his convictions by what he is willing to invest. Because he runs out of money. And his last attempt, if he doesn't get money in, his dream is over. He's going to go bankrupt. And his bank manager, was willing to lend him the money he needed, secured against his 2 houses. That is what we mean by conviction, right? Now, in the care, James demonstrates associations. It was his bank manager willing to support him that made it possible. The association. And then a very close association, his wife. Now, I don't know if you're married, but I'm married. And saying to my wife, I'm going to take out a loan after all the money that has been invested and lost, and it's going to be secured our 2 houses, which means we might lose our homes, the only other things and assets we have to hold on to, and she says yes, then she must really trust you. And how do you build such strong associations? It's by 3 things. Building trust depends on 3 things: reliability plus credibility plus intimacy, right? And the key thing that James demonstrated here is credibility. So what is your track record? You want people to back you, support you, help you. What track record do you have that will help them believe you and invest in you? The next person that we're going to be talking about is a guy that was born a crime. Literally. At the time his black mother got pregnant with him by his white father. This was in apartheid South Africa. And Trevor Noah was born a crime. And I've read his book, and that's the title of his book, and you must read it. It's an amazing book. It's funny, but it also educates you and tells you why he's become so successful. One storyline that I remember is when he was walking up the road, he could walk with his mom on one side of the road, and his father would have to be on the other side because they couldn't be seen to be walking together. Why am I sharing about Trevor Noah? Because he went through challenges being born mixed race. He went through challenges not belonging to one side versus the other. His mom struggled as a single mom to bring him up. Then she starts to date and gets involved and married to another man. And that man is abusive, really abusive. And he has to live through all of that. All these things show that Trevor Noah should not be where he is. but he is different. If they can, you can. And part of his way of dealing with the challenges he's going through and all the hell he is going through was comedy. Making himself laugh and making other people laugh. And he keeps on doing it, and eventually he's getting really good. One of the things I really take from the Trevor Noah story that we can take as well is the importance, the absolute importance of having fun doing what we are doing, but mastering our craft. He began to be mentored by other comedians. Now, what was his big break? Here he is doing comedy in different comedy clubs and using his challenges, his problems as content for making people laugh. Talk about when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. That's exactly what he has done. And that's my encouragement to you too. And then Trevor Noah says, look, I see what we are doing here in South Africa. It hasn't been done here before. No comedian has gone and gotten a theater and said, let's do a big comedy show like they do in the States, for example. And Trevor Noah takes a risk. And that's the third part of care. Conviction, of course he is convicted. And then associations, yes, he's building the associations and he has a marketing company that's going to work with him to make this thing happen. But ultimately, he's taking a risk, and a big one. It hasn't been done before, but he is willing to try to do things differently. What about you? When you say if they can, you can, you never will if you're not willing to take a risk. And he goes, he does this, and it is successful. That one thing is what begins to blow Trevor Noah up to the global stage. So much so that we then get to the Daily Show. Rich, by the way, has been anchored by John for years, decades. And then Trevor Noah comes up. It's not white. The audience very used to Jon Stewart and how he does it. And Trevor Noah takes the reins as the new anchor for the Daily Show against all the naysayers, against everyone who says it's not going to work. He takes another risk. He moves to America, a new country where he hasn't lived in before, and he's going to have to get accepted in this new space. And he is successful. If they can, you can. If you are willing to take the risk. And the final person that we are going to be talking about epitomizes all these aspects and one very crucial one. This person has real conviction. This person knows what it means to build strong associations and relationships. This person is willing to risk it all because he believes in it. And he is doing it, guess what? Not for himself, but for the greater good of his people. It's none other than Nelson Mandela, popularly called Madiba. And Madiba, fighting for fairness and fighting for the end of apartheid in South Africa, gets thrown in prison for life. And he is in prison for 27 years. Now, this story always blows my mind, because no matter what I'm going through, my question to myself is, first and foremost, you've not been thrown into prison for doing nothing wrong. Number two, Uche, are you willing to go through it for 27 years? So the care here, E, is endurance. That you are willing to wait for what you believe. People who become great, if they can, you can. Such people, it's because their mindset when it comes to endurance is for as long as it takes. That's their mindset. And is that your mindset as well? Are you willing to wait as long as it takes? I believe we all are, if we found the right thing to be fighting for. And I don't believe that he eventually comes out and the first thing he does is not begin to castigate violence again. No. He reaches out with a hand of peace and still fighting for what he believes in. He becomes the first black president of South Africa. Amazing. Are you going to be the first in something? And that's not the focus. But if you're going to be the first in something, the best in something, the most celebrated, if like Nelson Mandela, you're going to be a Nobel Prize winner for peace, and Malala at a much younger age was also given the Nobel Prize, there needs to be something a lot more than a casual approach to your dream and your goal. You need to care for your dream. And each of these people have shown that without conviction, don't bother. If you don't have a track record to have associations in quote relationships that are going to help you, don't bother. If you're not willing to take some risks and bet on yourself, if nobody else will, like Trevor and James and Malala and Nelson, don't bother. And if you are not willing to endure and have a mindset that says, as long as it takes, my friend, don't bother. At least bother with something, but nothing big and nothing great. I hope you're encouraged because I am getting really fired up just talking about this. And I hope that these stories help you go again, go hard, and never, ever, ever give up. If you found this episode useful, please share it, like it, make a comment, and by all means, ask some questions. Until next time, stay blessed.